12th century. This is the, this best example of it, right? In just first part, she married the king of France. He basically burned down a fucking church, killing 1200 people, went on a crusade. The marriage got broken up. After divorce, she's already about to marry future king of England. God knows what's going to happen in the next part. Who's just homes UX, and this is Divorcing a King. Eleanor of Aquitaine. What is Aquitaine? Yeah, never heard of this. This is part 1 by the Extra History channel. Extra History. Wait a minute, did they change the name? Wasn't there extra credits? Extra History. Yeah, I guess they changed the name, right? I'm pretty sure it was extra credits. When did they change the name? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's okay. In the description. Okay. Yeah, they changed the name. I didn't know that. I guess I'm pretty sure this is kind of recent, right? When did I last react to an extra credits video? I don't know. This is Extra History apparently now, okay? So yeah, obviously I was randomly going through comments like, let's just randomly react to something, and this was like, oh fine, I'll do that, apparently. So I don't know what place is Aquitaine. This is from April 1137. Let's do it.
1137, Paris. King Louis the Fat is having a very up and down sort of day. First of all, he's mortally ill, which of course isn't great, but then a party arrives bringing awful news. William X, Duke of Aquitaine, has died of an unexpected illness. They have his will, stating that his lands will go to his young daughter, and that she is to be under King Louis's care until he can find her a husband. Louis conveys his grief to the messengers, until they leave, when he bubbles over with joy. Because William's Duchy of Aquitaine is the largest, richest province
in France. It's part of France. That area is Aquitaine. First of all, how do you historically know he was happy after that? I mean, I guess his accents, he's just, yeah. He just saw a chance, basically. That makes sense.
All of France. And whoever marries this girl, what's her name? Eleanor, or whatever. Yeah, they're gonna get the whole shebang.
Yep.
And it just so happens that Louis has the perfect husband for this land deed and address. Within hours, he's made arrangements to marry Eleanor to his own heir Louis VII, winning a wife for his son and Aquitaine for the crown, though the son would manage to lose them both.
See, times like this, I think about that. You hear about this lavish parties and lavish lifestyles the monarchs and kings used to have. But when you really think about their life, it kind of makes sense, because everything they do in their life, every fucking thing is for something. It's never something that they want to do. From marriage to, even if they want to walk somewhere, it has to be some kind of symbolic needed thing. Not because they wanted to walk there. That's what their life is, right? Everything is, like a piece of a game. Everybody's trying to one-up each other. That's the whole game, right? Their whole life is that. So, sometimes they just went out with some ridiculous shit, right? I mean, it kind of makes sense. I'm not saying it's justified, but it kind of makes sense how the life go around.
Thanks so much to Brilliant for helping us to tell today's historical tale. On July 25th, 1137, not even 4 months after losing her father, the teenaged Eleanor stood next to Louis VII at Bordeaux Cathedral, exchanging wedding vows with the heir to the French throne. Who was this new husband? She must have wondered. Well, in short, he was a 17-year-old boy who was smitten with her, but also deeply mismatched personality-wise. Louis grew up thinking his older brother Philip would become king, but that changed after Philip tragically, hilariously, brutally died when a horse tripped over a pig. Now, I know what you're thinking. How absolutely awful that. You don't happen to have a picture of this melancholy event, do you? Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh, you got to be fucking... Oh, poor guy. What the fuck? Look at... His posse was with him, right? Other people in the hospital. Oh my God, imagine that. Oh, I'm the future king of it. And just suddenly a pig of all things just comes out and... Oh God, that's so horrible, man. Literally a road accident of that time, apparently.
Anyway, before the porcine assassin leapt from a dung heap and murked Philip, yeah, it also came out of a dung heap, Louis was bound for the church and educated in a monastery, making him a very, very religious young man who did not have much experience with women outside of his family. But who was Eleanor by contrast? Well, it's hard to know, because we know little about her early life, not even when she was born. We think she was married at age 13, but she could have been a year younger or older.
What?
We do know that she received a good education, that she spoke Latin, and that she was very much a person shaped by her home and family. Aquitaine was in the south of France.
Yeah, I know that things like this were common back then, like 13 years, 14 years, but whatever. That's kid, basically. The fuck do they know? What was it? Billboard just said, like, kids are idiots, man. At that age, come on.
A rich and beautiful place with its own dialect, where relationships tended to be warmer and more affectionate than in the north. She also came from a family known for its passions. For instance, her grandfather William IX was a poet who was famous for having painted his mistress's face on his shield and moving her into his castle. So essentially, they were a bit of an odd couple, and not the kind that works. But they'd have to make it work, because less than a week after their wedding, Louis VI died, making this mismatched teenage couple the King and Queen of France, and Eleanor arguably the most powerful woman in Europe. As queen consort,
Kids,
Eleanor
basically.
moved to Paris and quickly found it inhospitable. Though Louis refurbished his palaces to please his southern bride, the intelligent and vivacious Eleanor, who had a fondness for fashion and often spoke her mind, clashed with both her mother-in-law and the abbots who clustered around Louis as his advisors. Also, she was in a precarious spot, because Eleanor had one job, to have a son, and she wasn't having any kids at all. Yeah, there were issues. Eleanor appears to have had at least one miscarriage, and she was still quite young when they were married. Also, Louis himself might not have had his head in the game. See, the medieval church had a lot of rules about when couples shouldn't be baby making.
Oh, for
For
fuck's
example,
sake.
saints' days and religious festivals were out, as well as times in a woman's menstrual cycle, which narrowed the window considerably. Now, most practical royal couples ignored this, but the hyper-religious Louis may have not. Though in fairness, there were quickly other things preoccupying his mind. Like fighting with the Pope. That began in 1141, when the Pope appointed an archbishop in one of Louis's cities that the king had previously vetoed. The result was a standoff, where Louis denied the archbishop entry, and in retaliation, the Pope banned Louis from certain church rites. Then,
Damn.
shortly thereafter, Eleanor started urging Louis to allow her younger sister to marry one of France's most important nobles. The catch being that this prospective groom was already married, and Eleanor's sister already promised to the Duke of Champagne, the duke who was sheltering that archbishop. Louis saw this request as a win-win-win. Help a friend, please his wife, and mess over a rival. Except it led to the Pope excommunicating the new couple, and Louis going to war with Champagne. And when Louis...
Champagne's like, what the fuck did I do? What does this have to do with me, man? It's between you and Pope. This is fucking awesome. I love it. It just... Man, I love how he just messes... How many instances like this exist, right? I guess I have to watch some old simplistic productions or whatever video about Pope shenanigans. But how many kings and monarchs trifle with, basically, yeah. Always fight with Pope, something in there. And Pope always having power because, obviously religion, right? Oh, you can't do this, you can. I think the Pope used, he messed with this marriage, anything, I guess. Religion has hold over that area, right? So you broke on somebody's marriage, right? So that's excommunication or something.
ravaged one of the Duke's cities, he accidentally burned down a church where 1,200 innocents were sheltering, which led to a papal condemnation.
He
Eleanor
killed
decided
1,200
to
people just like
intervene,
that.
taking one of Louis's abbot advisors to task for not pleading the king's case with the new pope. And when he blew up at her in return, she apologized, saying that she was so irritable because she didn't have children. Which was probably true enough, but also could have been a sneaky way to go nuclear, make her point, and then walk away with the abbot's sympathy.
Conniving.
The abbot eventually did intervene, and by the next year, the papal relationship had been repaired, and she had a daughter. But Louis's conscience had never recovered from the church burning.
Yeah.
And when the Crusader kingdom of Edessa fell, and the Pope called for a second crusade to win it back, the king volunteered to wash away his sins. It was the first time a king had gone on crusade, and Eleanor decided she'd come too at the head of her duchy's troops. It was on crusade when things really started to fall apart. Louis argued with the Holy Roman Emperor about which route to take, and the Byzantine Emperor, while complimentary of Eleanor, was unfriendly. Louis also insisted on acting like a pilgrim on the journey, meaning not being near women. A+ move for a troubled marriage. Then disaster struck. Eleanor's contingent...
Come on, he was never really into it. That's the evidence so far. He just used any excuse to fuck away. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so basically she came for, Aquitaine army, right? His own duchess's army, and went to second crusade, apparently. Yeah, okay. So obviously, how do you get over killing 1,200 innocent people? And I mean, kings do that, I guess, somewhat regularly, fine in a way, I guess, but not by mistake, right? So if you do that shit by mistake and just by petty rivalry, of course, it's gonna stick to you. So is this gonna end badly for him, the Second Crusade? Because that's the trend I'm seeing so far.
Was leading the column, and when they were supposed to stop at the top of a mountain and camp, they decided to carry on to a better spot. Louis with the rear guard, and supposedly weighed down by Eleanor's baggage, lagged behind,
What?
and the line stretched. When Turkish archers started firing from the rocky slopes, it was essentially a massacre, blamed on Eleanor's contingent. So the couple was already on bad terms when they entered Antioch.
Okay, wait a minute. Did he have just 10 soldiers with him or something? How did his entire army is carrying her things? How many things of her is there? Is she moving the entire castle with her or something? This is bullshit. I feel like that's exaggerated events, right? But still.
A city ruled by Eleanor's dashing uncle, Raymond the Handsome. There, the uncle and niece renewed their friendship with the familial warmth common in Aquitaine, speaking in their own dialect that Louis couldn't understand. Louis got jealous, and rumors spread that Eleanor was having an incestuous affair with Raymond. And this wedge quickly went from personal to political. When Raymond wanted Louis to attack Aleppo, and Eleanor joined his lobbying effort, in a public break with his wife, Louis opted to go on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem instead, dragging her along as almost a prisoner. It was then she first mentioned the idea of an annulment on the grounds of consanguinity, that they were too closely related. The crusade itself was an expensive disaster.
There you go.
With crusader forces broken and the couple barely speaking, they got on separate ships.
Alright, are they too closely related? I mean, it would make sense. During those times, most monarchies, yeah, basically they can trace their lineage very close. That should happen. But yeah, so I guess the marriage is already broken if the talk is spreading and they're going different ships.
To head home. Attacked by pirates and separated in a storm, Eleanor briefly thought Louis was dead, but he wasn't. On a subsequent visit to the Pope, she again suggested annulment, but instead, the Pope offered marriage counseling, which, just to be clear, consisted of showing them a great bed he'd made himself, hung with nice tapestries all around. Ooh, look how bouncy!
What the
Why
fuck?
don't you two just spend the night in it? They did, and had another daughter, which was a relief for Eleanor, because at this
What the fuck? Is this one of the Pope's job? Oh, fuck me. They wanna break up the marriage. They are king and queen. I can let that happen. Let's talk about it. Yeah, here's a shiny bed. Take the hint.
At this point, she was looking for a way out, and her strongest argument was that in 15 years of marriage, she'd only had girls. If she'd had a boy, she'd be trapped. And because their marriage agreement said that Aquitaine was hers until the two had a male heir, now she could walk away with her duchy.
Oh, yeah.
Needing a son, worrying for his dynasty, and now barred from Eleanor's bed, even the Pope's sexy time bed, Louis consented, and Eleanor got her divorce, though she had to agree to never see her daughters again, as they were Louis's property. Now 28, the former Queen of France was beautiful, young, still
Look, man, kids' relationship with mother is psychologically much different than people think, basically. I don't know how much people know about that. But, the psychological effect of mother and, the children is completely different. So her giving away kids like that, yes, she could have thought like, I'm strong-minded, I'm a queen, right? I'm a ruler, I can do this, whatever. Just try to be tough about it. She might have thought I can do this. She probably tried to do this, but I'm pretty sure it would have taken a toll, right, in her psyche. Because nobody can I'm fine without my kids and just walk away, especially if the person is mother, right? If it's a father, I mean, yes, psychologically, they wouldn't be as attached as mother would be. So I bet this probably had some toll in her psyche moving forward.
Had her enormous duchy, and was once again single, even if only for a little bit. Within 8 weeks, she'd be married again to Henry II,
What?
a brash, passionate young man, 10 years her junior, who was also the future king of England. So join us next week for
Damn.
more wearing gowns and collecting crowns as Eleanor takes the English throne. Ooh, and in the meantime, if you'd like a crowning achievement of your own, particularly in STEM subjects, everybody knows that the best way to learn is through doing, which is...
Yeah, seriously, man. This is, there you go. Middle Ages or whatever, right? 12th century. This is this best example of it, right? In just first part, how many shit has happened, right? She married the King of France. He basically burned down a fucking church, killing 1,200 people. Went on a crusade. The marriage got broken up. Didn't have children. After divorce, she's already about to marry future king of England. God knows what's going to happen in the next part. And there's, I don't know, probably going to be 4-part series, right? That's usually the trend. How many shit is going to happen in this small series? Okay, seriously, this is like a big thing. And 12th century, so is she really important figure because she married the king of France? Now she's going to marry king of England, and around this time, let's be honest, France and England, that's as big thing as there can be. So is she was she a really influential figure throughout the history? Because it feels like she could have been. Damn, this is an interesting video. I didn't see this coming. Alright, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. I'll do the second part tomorrow, I guess, obviously. And yeah, I'll see you next time.